saying it's not important. It's always important that art is always a factor in which way capital is migrating, or which capital is mobile, as you know from Super Ferry, right? It can drive away, and so what's holding back that force right now is the fact that if you leave Oahu, where the unemployment rate is 6 or 6.5%, and move to Orange County, where the unemployment is 12% or something, you're just less likely to find a job. So those economic distinctions are right now exerting a countervailing force. But the art is definitely trading away from Oahu, and we'll have to see how that plays out. And I'll have some concluding comments along those lines. So that's kind of the outline of what I want to walk you through. Let's look at the cycle now. So this is this is your business, right? These are home sales statewide. We're running at just half, a little less than half of the volume at the peak, and you can see up there in 2005 a nice little flat spot and a pretty dramatic decline. I mean, at the moment, this isn't showing any sign of stabilization. So I wish I could report that to you. Again, it's not a number that's kind of tainted by the foreclosure universe. So in a recourse state like Hawaii, where if you walk away from your house, they come after your children. We don't have the same kind of forcing that we see in some of these more toxic markets. Oh, and but I'm thinking we're getting close. Like 8 would be an interesting number. 8,000. See, 8. 8. This is being good luck in Chinese.
It's a little soft.
So you can think, well, where's the bottom in the early 80s, and then where's the bottom in the 90s, and then, so it's just as bad as the 90s.
No.
Yeah, no, I don't get that feel. I just don't get that vibe. So I'm thinking, so a lower bound might be, these are logarithms. So this is actually 6.666, right? So that's probably 7. So I'm thinking, 8 to 9 start to get interesting. I really don't. I sort of gave up trying to forecast this. I mean, I will do it again in September or whatever. I do it for the bank, but
888.
huh? 888. There we go. So let me illustrate a little bit of this first point I was making about synchronicity. This is the production cycle for housing, and I've got the U.S. on the left and Hawaii on the right, and these are units. Okay, so I don't worry about dollar values and prices or anything. It's just the number of units starts for the U.S. on the left, and building permits, authorizations on the right. And you can see how this first distinction, in addition to the synchronicity that I'll emphasize momentarily, the fact that it's just not as bad here. I mean, it's a normal housing cycle in Hawaii. It's an abnormal housing cycle for the U.S. By any historic dimension. So in the U.S. right now, we're not actually building enough homes to endow the newborn with their own unit, their own housing unit. If you do that math, for example. So there's going to be a period where that comes back fairly dramatically. It's also the case that this is the longest, largely uninterrupted period of expansion and home building that extent in this data set. And we can talk about why that was true, but most of the factors that were responsible for that extraordinary trajectory are still true. So it could very well be that coming out of this hole, we end up on another one of these amazing trajectories. So here's the comparison in the time dimension. I'm going to line up the U.S. on the top with Hawaii on the bottom, and I'm going to split Hawaii out, split it out into Oahu and the neighbor islands. Notice that there were more homes built on the neighbor islands in the last cycle than there were on Oahu. The scales are different. The U.S. is on the right-hand side. In fact, 2/3 of the home building the last several years was on the neighbor islands, which comprised 1/3 of the economy. Only 1/3 of the housing was built on Oahu, which is 2/3 of the economy. So that, right off the top, you can tell it's not the same structural legacy. There's not the same inventory legacy of the cycle that you see on the neighbor islands. And on the neighbor islands, it's carnage. I mean, you look at the Maui data, just the Maui data for, in the context of the previous chart, looks exactly like the mainland. It's just, it's about to fall off the table completely. And they have this ridiculous housing ordinance. Do you know about this ordinance? So, like, right, here, something like 2007 or something, they passed an ordinance that says, okay, you got to build 40% affordable housing, or in lieu of that, you write us a check for $200,000 per unit, and we'll give you a building permit.
Shakedown.
Hey, at least it's above board, right? Then I will tell you what the optimal bribe is $200,000 per unit, and with that, we'll go do something. I don't know what. Now think about how that works. I used to be. There's like 3 people in town that make this argument. Me and the guy Dave Callies up at the UH. He's a constitutional scholar on takings and exactions. His whole shtick is this stuff is all not unconstitutional. It's just the case law just hasn't evolved. But the whole thing about exactions is with Dave is like constitutionality. And I'm thinking there must be one other person, but I don't know who that is. So my argument is, I used to be really kind of like, uncomfortable with like just being up in everybody's face about this. But I'm more convinced it's true than ever because the literature has been moving in my direction. And it's one of these things. So like when I was in 2nd grade at Monowilly Elementary School, I had this moment, one of these eureka moments, where I got a piece of Scotch tape and turned it over on itself and made double stick tape. I invented double stick tape. And I seriously thought I had invented double stick tape, and I'm like, woo, and all my classmates were like, you're an idiot. Everybody knows how to do that. And I was like, really? God, share the wealth, come on, what's up? So I've been doing this housing, research all these years, just on the Hawaii data set, and I'm convinced of all these things, the ones which I'm going to describe in the conclusion. And now I realize there's this whole literature that's out there that's emerging. So if you're interested, Google Gyurko and Glazer, G-Y-O-U-R-K-O. Glazer is G-L-A-E-S-E-R. Forget it, don't worry about it. But they have a new book out. So here's the argument. So we're gonna force the greedy developers to build affordable housing by I'm gonna mandate that 40% of what they build be affordable to households with a certain income using some mortgage, lending math. And that appears to work sometimes. It works when there's a lot of high-end homes being built, and you can actually mobilize a cross-subsidy, right? It may not be $200,000 per unit, although that's actually a good rough estimate of the regulatory loading on the delivered price of a new home. If you actually do the math, it costs about $600,000 to deliver a new home in Hawaii, and it's about $200,000 for the physical structure, to deliver the physical structure, labor and materials, and it's about $200,000 for the law, and it's about $200,000 to get all the regulatory stuff done. So it's fascinating to me that Maui kind of just says, write us a check, and you go into speedy lane to fast pass lane to deliver your house. But again, if your high-end market is doing well, then you can afford to cross-subsidize the low end. And to the policymaker, it looks like, see, we made them build affordable housing, and they did. So our policy works. But when the high-end market goes away, well, 40% of 0 is 0. So you don't have high-end or low-end. Let's say you're a developer or a contractor, and so you're going to move to the middle to keep your business alive. You're through building high-end homes in Wailea. You're going to go over to Wailuku Heights or something and build homes for peasants. But you can't, because you still have to pay $200,000 per building permit, right? Or build affordable housing. Except homes for peasants don't generate, right? Building the middle market $500,000 or $600,000 homes